You're so expensive, Ellen. Do you know how much you cost us?
Those words. Clara said them while I lay trembling in that basement room, too weak to walk, too confused to remember my own name half the time. She stood over me with that smile, the one that looked kind in daylight but turned cold when no one else was watching. And you know what? I said nothing, not a word, because that's what women like me were taught. Keep quiet. Don't make waves. Protect the family's peace, even when that peace is slowly killing you. But here's the thing about silence. It has an expiration date. And when mine ran out, oh, honey. When I finally found my voice again, when I gathered my proof, when I stood up in that courtroom with my grandson's hand in mine and my neighbor's camera footage in the prosecutor's hands, Clara's face went white as January snow. Let me tell you, justice tastes sweeter than any honey tea she ever poisoned me with. And I'm getting ahead of myself, aren't I? You need to understand how it all started. How a woman my age, 74 years old with a teaching pension and a dead husband, ended up fighting for her life in her own son's house. So let me take you back. Back to the beginning, before the tea, before the lies, before I learned that sometimes the most dangerous place for an old woman isn't the street, it's her own family's home. It was November when Richard died. Heart attack. Quick, they said, like that made it better. One morning he was reading the newspaper, complaining about the coffee, and by evening he was gone. 52 years of marriage, and just like that, silence. The funeral was beautiful. Mark, my son, held my elbow the whole time. Strong, steady Mark. My boy. He'd grown into a solid man, construction supervisor, good provider, the kind of father who never missed a game. "Mom," he said to me that day, his voice gentle but firm, "you shouldn't be alone anymore." I started to protest. I'd been handling the house just fine. Thank you very much. Sure, sometimes I forgot where I put my reading glasses. Sometimes I stood in the kitchen wondering what I'd come in there for. But that's just age, isn't it? That's just being 74 and tired and grieving. Clara and I talked about it, Mark continued. We've got that extra room. Ethan would love having his grandma around. Please, Mom, let us take care of you. Clara nodded beside him, her hand on his arm, her eyes soft with concern. We'd be honored, Ellen, she said, and her voice was warm as cinnamon. Your family. You belong with us. What could I say? My husband was dead. My house felt too big and too empty. And here was my son, offering me a place, offering me love. So I said yes. The house sat on the edge of Minneapolis, in one of those neighborhoods where people still knew each other's names. You know the kind, not fancy, but decent. Neat lawns, American flags on porches, kids riding bikes after dinner. Mark's place was a 2-story colonial with pale blue siding and white trim. 2 apple trees in the front yard, their branches bare against the gray November sky. A basketball hoop over the garage. Through the living room window, I could see warm, yellow light. When we pulled into the driveway that first afternoon, Ethan burst out the front door. 13 years old, all elbows and energy, and that smile that reminded me so much of Mark at that age. "Grandma!" He threw his arms around me, nearly knocked me over. "I cleaned out the spare room for you." Well, Mom did most of it, but I helped. I laughed. First real laugh since Richard died. "Did you now?" "Yeah. And I set up the TV so you can watch your cooking shows. Dad said you like those." Inside, the house smelled like pine and something baking. Clara appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on an apron. "I made apple pie," she said, smiling. "I remember you mentioned it was your favorite." She had? I didn't remember telling her that. But there it was, a pie cooling on the counter, the crust golden and perfect, the smell of cinnamon and sugar filling the air. "You didn't have to do that," I said, touched. "Of course I did." Clara took my coat, hung it carefully. "You're not a guest, Ellen. You're home. Home. The word settled over me like a blanket. Maybe this would be okay. Maybe this was exactly what I needed. My room was on the first floor, just off the kitchen. Small but comfortable. A double bed with a blue quilt, a dresser, a rocking chair by the window that looked out at the backyard. Clara had even put fresh flowers on the nightstand, grocery store daisies, but still. "I thought you'd want to be down here," she said, showing me around, "so you wouldn't have to worry about stairs." Thoughtful. Everything was so thoughtful. That first week passed like a dream. Mark was at work most days, but Clara was always there. She made my breakfast just how I liked it. Scrambled eggs, wheat toast, orange juice. She reminded me to take my blood pressure medication. She asked about my day, listened when I told stories about my teaching years. "You must have been wonderful with the children," she'd say. "So patient." Ethan came home from school and did his homework at the kitchen table while I peeled potatoes for dinner. He talked about soccer, about his friends, about the girl in his English class who might like him but he wasn't sure. I felt useful again, needed. Like maybe losing Richard wasn't the end of everything. The neighborhood was quiet, the kind of quiet that feels peaceful instead of lonely. Through my window, I could see across the street to Missy Parker's house. Missy was a few years younger than me, 67 I'd learn later, a retired nurse who kept her lawn immaculate and waved whenever she saw me. Some mornings I'd sit in that rocking chair and watch the snow start to fall. Early December in Minnesota, and the world turned soft and white. The apple trees looked like they'd been dusted with powdered sugar. Ethan's laughter echoed from upstairs. Clara hummed in the kitchen. This is peace, I thought. This is what comes after grief. A second chance. But here's what I didn't know yet. What I couldn't have known because I wanted to believe so badly in kindness, in family, in the goodness of the people I loved. Peace isn't always peace. Sometimes it's just the quiet before everything falls apart. Sometimes the warmest house hides the coldest heart. And sometimes the person offering you tea is the same person planning to put you in the ground. It was 3 weeks before Christmas when the air began to change. Nothing obvious. Nothing I could point to and say, there. That's when it started. Just small things. Little cracks in the perfect surface. Clara seemed distracted. She spent more time on her phone, typing fast, her face tight with concentration. When I asked if everything was okay, she'd smile, that same warm smile, and say, "Of course, Ellen, just work stuff." But I'd been a teacher for 38 years. I knew the difference between truth and performance. The meals got simpler. Toast instead of eggs, canned soup instead of homemade. "I'm swamped with client deadlines," Clara explained. "You understand, don't you?" I did. I always did. That was my problem. One afternoon, Clara found me in the living room, looking at photos. I'd pulled out an old album, pictures of Mark as a baby, of Richard and me at Niagara Falls, of our little house on Elm Street where we'd raised our son. "Ellen," Clara said, her voice casual, too casual, "have you thought about what you'll do with that house?" "Do with it?" "Well, you can't keep it empty forever. The property taxes alone." She sat beside me, put her hand on mine. "Mark and I were thinking, maybe it's time to sell. We could help you handle everything. Sell Richard's house? Sell the place where I'd lived my entire adult life?" "I don't know," I said slowly. I hadn't really... "You don't need that burden," Clara interrupted, gentle but firm. "Let us take care of it." That's what family does. There was something in her eyes, something I didn't want to name, but I should have. God help me, I should have. Because that was the moment. That was when the trap began to close. I just didn't know it yet. I smiled, thanked her for caring, said I'd think about it. And Clara smiled back, squeezed my hand, and said, "Take your time, Ellen. Take all the time you need." But her eyes said something different. Her eyes said, "The clock is ticking. Looking back now from the safety of this side of the story, I can see it all so clearly. The pattern, the plan, the careful, calculated way she started to tighten the noose. But you can't see the trap when you're standing in it. You can only feel it when it springs shut. And honey, when it finally did, I learned something my 74 years hadn't taught me yet. I learned that nice old ladies aren't supposed to fight back. They're supposed to fade away quietly, sign whatever papers you put in front of them, swallow whatever pills you give them, and disappear. But this nice old lady, this retired school teacher with the trembling hands and the foggy memory, I had other plans, and Clara was about to find out that you don't survive 74 years on this earth by being weak. You survive by being smart, by paying attention, by remembering that even when your body fails you, your mind can stay sharp as winter ice. She thought she could erase me. She was wrong. And by the time I was done, by the time that Judge's gavel came down and Clara's tears dried up and my son finally saw the truth, she knew exactly how wrong she'd been. But I'm getting ahead of myself again. You need to hear the rest. You need to understand how a house of second chances became a house of nightmares. So let me tell you about the bitter taste. Let me tell you about the tea. The first time I said no to Clara, it was January 15th. I remember the date because it was 3 days after what would have been Richard's 76th birthday. I'd been crying that morning, quiet tears while I folded laundry in my room. Clara came in without knocking. She did that sometimes now, just walked right in. "Ellen," she said, her voice bright but strained, "I need to talk to you about something important." She sat on my bed, too close. I could smell her perfume, something floral that used to seem pleasant but now made my stomach tight. "Mark and I are having some cash flow issues," she began, not quite meeting my eyes. "Just temporary. The holidays were expensive and I've got some client payments that are delayed." I nodded, waiting. "I was wondering if you could help us out." "Just a loan. Maybe 15,000? Her smile was wide, desperate. "We'd pay you back by March, I promise. $15,000. Half of my emergency fund. The money I'd saved from Richard's life insurance. The money I'd planned to leave to Ethan someday." "Oh, Clara," I said, trying to sound sympathetic, "I don't think I can do that." "That's my safety net." "I'm sorry." The smile froze on her face, just froze there like ice. "Your safety net." Her voice went flat. "You're living here rent-free, Ellen. We feed you. We take care of you. And you can't help us when we need it?" My chest went tight. "I didn't mean... It's fine." She stood up fast, smoothing her jeans with sharp, angry movements. "Forget I asked." She left. The door didn't slam, but it might as well have. The air in the room felt different after that, colder. That night, my dinner was a bowl of canned soup. Clara said she hadn't had time to cook. After that, things changed. Not all at once. Slowly. Like watching clouds gather before a storm. My portions got smaller. Toast without butter. Soup without crackers. When I asked if there was more, Clara would say cheerfully, "You're trying to watch your weight, remember?" The doctor said. The doctor never said that, but I didn't argue. Maybe I should have. My pills started disappearing. The blood pressure medication I took every morning, suddenly the bottle was empty 3 days before the refill date. "Are you sure you didn't take extra by mistake?" Clara asked, her voice dripping with concern. "You've been forgetting things lately." Had I? I couldn't remember. My mind felt fuzzy those days, clouded. Mark noticed I was losing weight. "Mom, you're looking thin," he said one Sunday, frowning. Before I could answer, Clara jumped in. "She's been picking at her food." "I think it's the grief, honey. Sometimes people lose their appetite." She squeezed my shoulder, her fingers pressed too hard. Mark nodded, satisfied, went back to his football game, my strong, solid son who believed every word his wife said. Then came the tea. It started in February. Cold, bitter February when the snow piled high and the sun set at 4:30 and the whole world felt gray. Clara brought it to me one evening, a mug of honey tea, steam rising, the smell sweet and inviting. "I thought this might help you sleep," she said, setting it on my nightstand. "Chamomile and honey." My grandmother used to make it for me. Her voice was kind again, warm, like those first weeks. I wanted to believe in that warmth. God, how I wanted to. "Thank you," I said, touched. Maybe I'd been wrong about her. Maybe she was trying to make amends. I drank it. Every drop. It tasted like honey and flowers and something else I couldn't quite place. Something bitter underneath the sweet. That night, I slept 12 hours. Heavy, dreamless sleep. When I woke, my mouth was dry and my head felt stuffed with cotton. Clara brought tea again the next night, and the next, and the next. "It's helping you rest," she said. "You need your rest, Ellen." I did feel tired. So tired. All the time now. My legs wobbled when I walked. My hands shook when I tried to button my cardigan. "Maybe you should see the doctor," Mark suggested. "Get checked out." Clara agreed immediately. "I'll make the appointment." Don't worry about a thing. But somehow that appointment never got made. There was always a reason. The office was booked. The roads were too icy. They'd call back tomorrow. Tomorrow never came. By March, I barely left my room. The stairs to the second floor, where Ethan's room was, where I used to go to say goodnight, felt like climbing a mountain. My legs wouldn't cooperate. My breath came short. I spent my days in that rocking chair by the window, wrapped in blankets, watching the world outside. Missy Parker clearing her driveway, kids walking home from school, life happening without me. Clara brought my meals on a tray now, said it was easier this way. Soup, crackers, tea, always tea. "You're doing so well," she'd say, but her eyes looked right through me, like I wasn't even there. Sometimes I tried to protest, tried to say I wanted to eat in the kitchen, wanted to see Ethan, wanted to feel like part of the family again. "You need your rest," Clara would say, firm but sweet. "Doctor's orders." What doctor? When had I seen a doctor? I couldn't remember. Everything was fog. One afternoon, I woke from a nap, or had I passed out, and found Clara going through my dresser drawers. She jumped when she saw me watching. "Just organizing," she said quickly. "You're so messy, Ellen." I'm trying to help, but I saw what she held. My checkbook, my bank statements, papers I kept in the bottom drawer. "Put those back," I said, my voice weak but angry. "Those are private." Clara's face went hard. "Private? You don't have anything private anymore. You can barely remember your own name half the time." She threw the papers back in the drawer, slammed it shut. "Maybe it's time we talked about power of attorney," she said, cold as January wind, "for your own protection." Power of attorney. Signing over control of my money, my decisions, my life? "No," I whispered. "No, I won't." "We'll see about that." Clara left, taking my dinner tray with her. I hadn't even touched the soup. That night, no tea came. I was glad, relieved. But around 11, my door opened. Clara stood there in her bathrobe, backlit by the hall light. "I forgot your tea," she said softly. "Can't have you lying awake all night, can we?" She handed me the mug, watched me drink it, didn't leave until the cup was empty. The bitter taste was stronger that night. I gagged but swallowed. What choice did I have? As she closed the door, I heard her whisper something. Might have been my imagination, might have been the drugs. But I swear she said, "Sleep tight, Ellen. Dream deep." And I did. I slept so deep I didn't dream at all. March became April. The snow melted. The apple trees started budding. I watched it all from my window, from that rocking chair that had become my entire world. I was disappearing. I could feel it. 20 pounds gone, my hair falling out in clumps, my reflection in the window glass, a ghost of myself. Clara came and went like a warden. Pills in the morning, soup at noon, tea at night, always tea. "You're so expensive, Ellen," she said one evening, her voice casual, conversational. "Do you know how much you cost us?" "The food, the utilities, your medications." I stared at her, tried to find words. "We're doing you a favor, letting you stay here," she continued, adjusting my blanket like she cared. "The least you could do is be grateful." Grateful. I was supposed to be grateful for this prison, for this slow erasure. That night, I didn't drink the tea. I pretended to, held it to my lips, let it wet my tongue. But when Clara left, I poured it into the plant by my window. A half-dead philodendron Clara had given me months ago. I needed to stay awake, needed to think. Something was very, very wrong, and if I didn't figure out what, I was going to die in this room, not from age, not from illness, from kindness, from family, from tea that tasted like honey and poison. The next morning, my mind was clearer than it had been in weeks, sharp, present. I looked at myself in the bathroom mirror, really looked. Hollow cheeks, bruised eyes, skin like paper. This wasn't grief, wasn't age, wasn't dementia. This was murder, slow and careful and hidden behind smiles. And Clara thought I was too weak, too confused, too obedient to fight back. She thought silence would protect her. But she forgot something important. I'd been a teacher for 38 years. I'd handled bullies before. I knew how predators operated. They relied on their victims staying quiet, staying ashamed, blaming themselves. Well, I was done being quiet. I was done being ashamed. And if Clara wanted a fight, if she thought she could erase me without consequences, she was about to learn that this 74-year-old woman still had teeth. And honey, they were sharp. Here's what saved my life: a soccer ball and a twisted knee. Funny, isn't it? How the smallest things can change everything. Ethan was playing in a tournament that April, regional championships or some such thing. He was fast, my grandson, quick on his feet, the kind of kid who made running look like flying, until he didn't. I heard about it from Clara, who came into my room looking more irritated than concerned. "Ethan tore his ACL," she announced, arms crossed. "He'll be home from school for 2 weeks, maybe 3. She said it like it was an inconvenience, like her son's pain was just another item on her to-do list. But me? I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. Ethan came home the next day on crutches, his left leg wrapped in a black brace that went from ankle to thigh. He hobbled past my room, and I called out to him, "Ethan? Sweetheart?" He stopped, backed up, poked his head through my doorway, and the look on his face. Oh, that look. Shock, concern, fear. "Grandma?" His voice cracked on the word. "What happened to you?" I must have looked worse than I thought, worse than the mirror showed me. "I've been sick," I said, trying to smile. "Just a bad winter." He came closer, crutches thumping on the hardwood, sat carefully on the edge of my bed, his injured leg stretched out straight. "You look..." He stopped, swallowed hard. "You look really thin." 13 years old, and he could see what his father couldn't, what his father refused to see. "I'm okay," I lied. "How's your knee?" "Hurts like hell." He said it matter-of-factly, then glanced at the door like he was checking if Clara had heard him curse. "But it's fine. I'll be fine." We sat there in silence for a moment. Through the window, I could see the apple trees blooming, pink and white flowers against the blue spring sky. Beautiful. Everything outside was so beautiful. "Grandma," Ethan said quietly, his eyes on his hands, "are you eating okay?" The question hit me like a punch. "What do you mean?" He looked up at me, his young face serious, older than it should be. "Mom says you're not hungry, that you pick at your food, but I remember you used to eat everything. You loved food. Smart boy. Observant boy." "I'm eating enough," I said, but the words felt hollow. Ethan didn't believe me. I could see it in his eyes, but he didn't push. Not yet. "Okay," he said. "Well, I'm going to be home for a while. Maybe we can hang out? I'd like that very much." He smiled, got up carefully, balancing on his crutches. At the door, he paused. "Grandma? If you need anything." His voice was soft, uncertain. "You can tell me." "Okay." I nodded, couldn't speak. The lump in my throat was too big. After he left, I cried. First time in weeks I'd let myself cry, because someone had seen me, really seen me, and maybe, just maybe, I wasn't as alone as I thought. Over the next few days, Ethan became my shadow. Well, my hobbling shadow. He'd set up his laptop at the kitchen table where he could see into my room, did his homework there, played video games there, always watching. Clara noticed. "Don't you want to be upstairs in your own room?" she'd ask him, her voice tight. "Nah," Ethan would say casually. "Wi-Fi's better down here." It wasn't. We all knew it. But what could Clara say? He started bringing me things. A sandwich from his lunch, an apple from the fruit bowl. "I'm not that hungry," he'd say, setting it on my nightstand. "You should have it." The food tasted like life, like hope. I ate every bite when Clara wasn't looking, and Ethan watched, always watched. I saw him notice things. The way Clara brought my tea every night at exactly 8:30. The way she'd stand there until I drank it. The way my hands would shake afterward, my eyes would glaze. One night after Clara left with my empty cup, Ethan appeared in my doorway. His face was pale in the dim light. "What's in that tea?" he whispered. "Chamomile," I said, "and honey." "And what else?" I stared at him. This child, this beautiful, brave child who saw what no one else would see. "I don't know," I admitted. "But something's wrong, Ethan." "Something's very wrong." He nodded slowly. "I know, Grandma. I know." The next evening, I pretended to drink the tea, held it to my lips, tilted the cup, let a little wet my mouth. When Clara left, satisfied, I poured the rest into a plastic water bottle I'd hidden under my pillow. Evidence. I needed evidence. Ethan came in 10 minutes later. I showed him the bottle. "Can you hide this?" I asked. "Keep it safe?" He took it carefully, like it was nitroglycerin. "What are you going to do?" "I don't know yet. But I need proof. I need people to believe me." "I believe you," he said fiercely. "I believe you, Grandma." And that right there, that was the moment everything changed. Because Ethan pulled out his phone, one of those new iPhones with the fancy cameras. "I've been recording," he said quietly, "for 3 days now. The way Mom talks to you, the tea, everything." My heart stopped, started, stopped again. "You what?" "I set up my old phone in the hallway," he explained, his words tumbling out fast. "It's in the bookshelf where no one looks. It's been recording since Monday. 3 days of footage. 3 days of Clara's cruelty caught on camera." "Ethan," my voice broke, "you could get in trouble. Your mother is hurting you," he interrupted, and his eyes were bright with tears. "She's hurting you, Grandma. And Dad won't see it. And I can't. I can't just watch." He was 13 years old and braver than any adult in that house. "I'm backing everything up to the cloud," he continued. "She can't delete it, can't find it. It's safe." I pulled him into a hug, held him tight. This child, this hero. "Thank you," I whispered into his hair. "Thank you, sweetheart." He hugged me back, careful of my fragile bones. "We're gonna fix this, Grandma." "I promise." After that night, Ethan became my co-conspirator, my partner in survival. He started documenting everything, took photos of my dinner portions, the half slice of toast, the watery soup, recorded Clara's voice when she said cruel things, caught her on video going through my dresser drawers, rifling through my papers. "She's looking for something," Ethan said one afternoon, showing me the footage on his laptop. See how she keeps checking that bottom drawer? My financial documents, my bank statements, the papers showing I still had money, still had assets she couldn't touch. Yet. She wants me to sign power of attorney, I told him. She keeps bringing it up. Ethan's face went hard. Don't sign anything. Don't sign a single thing. I won't. But we both knew it was only a matter of time before Clara stopped asking and started forcing. The breakthrough came from across the street. Missy Parker. Remember I mentioned her? The retired nurse with the perfect lawn and the kind smile. She'd been watching, too. One morning, while Clara was out running errands, Missy knocked on the door. Ethan answered. "Is your grandmother home?" she asked, concern thick in her voice. "I've been worried about her. I haven't seen her outside in weeks." Ethan looked at me through the doorway. I nodded. He let her in. Missy took one look at me, really looked, and her face went pale. "Ellen," she breathed. "Oh, honey, what's happening to you?" And just like that, the dam broke. I told her everything. The tea, the isolation, Clara's demands, the fear that I was losing my mind, losing myself, losing everything. Missy listened, didn't interrupt, didn't doubt. Just listened with the trained attention of a woman who'd seen abuse before and knew its face. "I have cameras," she said when I finished. "Security cameras on my front porch. They cover the whole street, including your driveway." My heart jumped. And I've seen things," she said grimly. "Clara coming and going at odd hours. A man I don't recognize visiting when Mark's at work. Her car leaving at midnight, coming back at 3 a.m. Gambling. It had to be. The casinos on the reservation were open all night. "I've been saving the footage," Missy continued, "just in case. I had a feeling." She stopped, shook her head. "I should have come sooner." "I'm sorry. You're here now," I said. "That's what matters." Ethan showed Missy his recordings. She watched them, her mouth pressed into a thin line. "This is abuse," she said flatly. "This is elder abuse. And I'm a mandatory reporter. I should have reported this already." "We need more proof," Ethan said. "We need to catch her doing something big, something she can't explain away." Missy nodded slowly. "What do you need from me?" "Your footage," I said, "and your testimony when the time comes. You'll have both." She squeezed my hand. "I promise you, Ellen. You're not alone in this. 3 people now. 3 people who saw, who believed, who were willing to fight. It was enough to make me think I might actually survive this." That night, Clara brought my tea as usual, but this time Ethan's camera was recording. Missy was across the street, monitoring her security feed, and I was ready. "Here you go, Ellen," Clara said sweetly, handing me the mug. "Drink up, you need your rest." I took it, held it, let the steam warm my face. "Clara," I said softly, "what's in this tea?" She blinked. "What?" "The tea." "What's in it?" Her smile tightened. "Chamomile. Honey. You know that. And nothing." Her voice went cold. "Drink it, Ellen." "Don't be difficult. I don't want it tonight." "Drink. It." The mask was slipping. Right there on camera, the mask was slipping. "No," I said. "I don't think I will." Clara's hand shot out, grabbed my wrist, squeezed hard enough to leave marks. "You'll drink it," she hissed, her face inches from mine, "or I'll make you drink it. Do you understand me, you ungrateful old bitch?" There it was. The truth. Finally. And Ethan's phone caught every word. After Clara left, after she realized what she'd said, tried to backtrack, stammered an apology I didn't accept, I sat in the dark and smiled. We had her. Not enough for the police yet, maybe, but enough to start building a case. Enough to prove I wasn't crazy, wasn't confused, wasn't making it up. Ethan came in later, his face glowing with triumph. "I got it," he whispered. "All of it. The threat, the grabbing, everything." "Good boy," I said. Such a good boy. He grinned. Then his expression turned serious. Grandma, what do we do now? I thought about that, about Clara's desperation, about the tea I kept refusing, about how cornered animals were the most dangerous kind. Now, I said quietly, we make sure I live long enough to tell this story. Because Clara wasn't going to give up. Not now. Not when she'd come this close. And a woman with nothing left to lose? A woman drowning in debt and desperation? She was capable of anything, but so was I. And honey, she was about to find out exactly what a 74-year-old woman with truth on her side could do. Missy moved fast, faster than I expected for a woman in her 60s. She sat on my bed, holding my hand, and I felt the nurse in her taking over. She checked my pulse, looked at my eyes, pressed gently on my ankles where the swelling had gotten bad. How long has this been going on? She asked, her voice steady but her eyes furious. Months, I whispered. Since January, really, but it got worse in February. The tea? Ethan asked from the doorway, keeping watch. The tea, I confirmed. Every night, sometimes twice a day when I refused to sleep. Missy's jaw tightened. I've been watching. I knew something was wrong. The way Clara's car leaves at odd hours, 2, 3 in the morning sometimes, coming back at dawn. She shook her head. I thought maybe she was having an affair, never imagined that she was killing me. I finished for her. Neither did I. You need a doctor, Missy said firmly. Real medical tests, blood work. We need proof of what's in your system. Clara won't let me go to the doctor. She keeps canceling the appointments. Then we don't tell Clara. Missy pulled out her phone. I know someone at Mercy Hospital, Dr. Kevin Lewis. Good man. He'll see you without questions, and he'll document everything. Hope fluttered in my chest. Fragile. Dangerous. When? Tomorrow. I'll drive you myself. Missy looked at Ethan. Can you keep your mother distracted? Ethan nodded, his face set with determination. She usually goes to yoga on Tuesday mornings, 10 to 11:30. That's our window. Perfect. Missy squeezed my hand. Ellen, I'm going to bring you my security footage tonight. USB drive. Everything from the past 3 months. You'll see what I've seen. That night, after Clara brought the tea, which I poured into an empty water bottle Ethan had given me, Missy came back. 9:45. A quick knock. She slipped in like a shadow. The USB drive was small, silver, innocent looking. She pressed it into my palm and it felt like a weapon. Watch it when you're alone, she said quietly. It's hard to see, but you need to know. After she left, Ethan helped me set up his laptop. We waited until we heard Clara and Mark go to bed, until the house settled into that deep, dark quiet. Then we watched. The footage was time-stamped. Black and white, but clear. Missy's camera had a perfect view of our driveway and front porch. January 16th, 2:17 a.m., Clara's car pulling out. No headlights until she reached the street. January 23rd, 3:04 a.m. Same thing. February 2nd, February 9th, February 16th. A pattern, always between 2 and 4 in the morning, always dark, always sneaking. Where is she going? Ethan whispered. I shook my head. I didn't know, but I could guess. Gambling. The casino was 40 minutes away. Clara had mentioned it once, casually, how she and her friends used to go for fun. But this wasn't fun. This was addiction. This was desperation. Then came the footage from March. Daytime now, Clara leaving the house with boxes. My boxes. I recognized them. The ones from my storage closet. The ones with Richard's things. My things. She was selling my belongings, taking them to consignment shops, probably, converting my life into cash to feed whatever hole she'd dug for herself. The final clip was from 2 weeks ago. Clara on the front porch, looking around nervously, then pulling something from her purse. Papers. She glanced at them, and even in the grainy footage I could see her expression. Calculation. Cold, careful calculation. She folded the papers, slipped them back in her purse, went inside. "What was that?" Ethan asked. "I don't know, but we're going to find out." Tuesday morning came with gray skies and the smell of rain. Clara left for yoga at 9:55. Mark had already gone to work. The house was empty except for me and Ethan. Missy's car pulled up at 10:02. Getting me out to that car was harder than I expected. My legs barely worked. Ethan had to support me on one side, his bad knee making him wince. Missy took the other side. "Almost there, Ellen," she murmured. "Almost there." The car seat felt like heaven. Soft, safe. The first time I'd been outside in months, the air smelled like wet earth and spring and freedom. At the hospital, Dr. Lewis was waiting. 50-ish kind eyes, the sort of doctor who actually listens. Missy must have told him everything because he didn't ask questions. Just started working. Blood pressure, heart rate, blood draw. So many vials of blood I got dizzy watching them fill. "When did you last eat a full meal?" he asked gently. "I don't remember," I admitted. "January, maybe." His face darkened. He made notes, more tests, reflex checks, cognitive assessments, questions about my symptoms, my medications, my routine. "Someone's been giving you sedatives," he said finally. "Benzodiazepines, most likely. High doses, long-term use." He looked at me over his glasses. "Mrs. Brewster, this is elder abuse. We need to report this." "Not yet," I said quickly. "We need more proof. We need to catch her in the act." "Ellen." "Please." My voice broke. "She's my son's wife. The mother of my grandson. If we move too fast, if we don't have everything documented perfectly, she'll spin it. She'll make me look confused, senile. She'll win." Dr. Lewis studied me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "I'll document everything. Date it. Sign it. When you're ready, this will hold up in court." "Thank you," I whispered. He printed out the results, handed them to Missy in a sealed envelope. "Keep these safe. And Ellen, start eating real food. Your body is starving." We got back at 11:15, 15 minutes before Clara would return. Ethan helped me back to my room. We'd just gotten me into bed when we heard the garage door opening. Clara's car, right on time. She came to check on me immediately, opened my door without knocking, her yoga mat still under her arm. "How are you feeling today, Ellen?" Sweet voice, false concern. "Tired," I said, which was true. The trip to the hospital had exhausted me. "Did you eat your breakfast?" "Yes." A lie. There had been no breakfast, just a cup of water Ethan had brought me. She studied me. Her eyes narrowed slightly. "You look different." My heart hammered. Did she know? Could she tell? Different how? I kept my voice weak, confused. "I don't know, more alert." She moved closer. "Are you taking your medications properly?" "You bring them to me," I pointed out. "You watch me take them." "True." But she didn't look convinced. She glanced around my room, at the nightstand, at the window, looking for something out of place. Her eyes landed on the dead philodendron, the brown leaves, the wet soil. "This plant needs to be thrown out," she said slowly. "It's dead." "I like it," I said. "Richard gave it to me." A lie, but she didn't know that. And it worked. Her face softened fractionally. "Fine. Keep your dead plant." She turned to leave, then paused at the door. "I'm making soup for lunch." "Chicken noodle, your favorite." "Thank you." After she left, Ethan slipped in. "That was close," he breathed. "Too close. We need to move faster." I pulled out my phone. Missy had brought me a new one, a prepaid one Clara didn't know about. "We need to find those papers, the ones from the security footage." Mom's purse? Her purse. That afternoon, while Clara was on a conference call upstairs, Ethan did something incredibly brave and incredibly stupid. He took her purse, just grabbed it from the kitchen counter where she always left it, brought it to my room. His hands were shaking so hard he could barely unzip it. Wallet, keys, makeup, receipts from places I didn't recognize, a casino player's card with Clara's name on it, and then, in the inside pocket, papers, insurance papers, my life insurance policy, the one Richard had set up 20 years ago, $500,000, beneficiary, Mark Brewster, except the beneficiary line had been changed, crossed out, rewritten, new beneficiary, Clara Brewster, and at the bottom, a signature, my signature, except I'd never signed that paper, never even seen it before. She forged it, I whispered. She forged my signature. Ethan stared at the document. This is fraud. This is motive. My hands weren't shaking anymore. They were steady, sure. She's not just trying to kill me for money. She needs me dead to pay off her debts, the casino, everything. We took photos, every page, every signature, every piece of evidence. Then Ethan put it all back, exactly as he'd found it, returned the purse to the kitchen counter. When Clara came downstairs 10 minutes later, she had no idea her entire plan had just been exposed. That night, we made our move. Missy called the police. Not 911. This wasn't that kind of emergency. But she filed a report. Elder abuse. Possible fraud. Possible attempted murder. They said they'd send someone out in the morning. Dr. Lewis faxed his medical report to the detective assigned to the case. Blood work results, documentation of malnutrition, evidence of long-term sedative use, and Ethan compiled everything on his laptop. The videos, the photos, the security footage, all of it in one folder backed up to the cloud. We had her. We finally had her. But Clara didn't know it yet. She brought my tea that night, same as always, smiled that false smile, watched me pretend to drink. "Sleep well, Ellen," she said softly. I smiled back. "Oh, I will. I'll sleep better tonight than I have in months." She frowned slightly, confused by my tone, but she left, closed the door, went to bed thinking she was still in control. She wasn't. And in the morning, when 2 detectives knocked on our door, when they asked Clara Brewster to come down to the station for questioning, when they presented her with medical records and security footage and forged insurance documents, her face went white as death itself. Mark stood there in the living room, his world crumbling. "Mom," he said, his voice breaking. "Mom, what's going on?" I took his hand. My strong, stupid, trusting son. "Sit down, sweetheart," I said gently. "We need to talk." And for the first time in months, my voice didn't shake, because I wasn't afraid anymore. I was free. And Clara? Clara was finished. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Fluorescent lights, beige walls, rows of wooden benches that smelled like lemon polish and old paper. I sat in the front row, Missy on one side, Ethan on the other. Mark sat 3 rows back. He couldn't look at me, couldn't look at Clara, just stared at his hands like they held answers. Clara wore navy blue, conservative, respectable, her hair pulled back neat. Her lawyer, expensive-looking, slick, sat beside her whispering instructions. But I could see the truth underneath, the trembling hands, the dark circles under her eyes, the way she kept glancing at the exit like maybe she could run. She couldn't. Not anymore. The prosecutor was a woman named Jennifer Chen, young, sharp, fierce. She laid it all out. The medical records, the forged insurance documents, the security footage showing Clara leaving at 3 a.m., coming back at dawn, the bank statements showing hundreds of thousands lost to gambling. Mrs. Brewster systematically isolated, poisoned, and defrauded her own mother-in-law, Jennifer said, her voice clear and strong. This wasn't neglect. This was calculated, deliberate. A slow-motion murder interrupted only by the courage of a 13-year-old boy. Ethan squeezed my hand. I squeezed back. When it was time for Clara to speak, her lawyer stood, talked about addiction, mental health, desperation, how Clara had hit rock bottom and made terrible choices but never intended actual harm. My client is deeply remorseful, he said smoothly. She's willing to enter treatment. Make restitution. She asks the court for mercy. Then Clara herself stood up, turned to face me. Her eyes were red, swollen from crying. Real tears this time, not the fake ones she'd used to manipulate Mark. Ellen, she said, her voice breaking on my name. I'm so sorry. I was drowning and I thought if I just had more money, more time, I could fix everything. I never meant... She stopped, covered her face with her hands. Her whole body shook. And you know what? I believed her. Not about the intent. She absolutely meant to kill me. But about the drowning part. About being so far underwater she couldn't see daylight anymore. I taught enough troubled kids to recognize desperation when I saw it. I forgive you, I said quietly. The courtroom went silent. Even the judge looked surprised. Clara's head snapped up. What? I forgive you. Louder now, clear. You tried to kill me. You stole from me. You poisoned me and lied and manipulated everyone who loved you. And I forgive you. Her lawyer looked thrilled. The prosecutor looked less so. But I wasn't done. Forgiving you doesn't mean you get to walk away, I continued, holding Clara's gaze. It means I'm not carrying your poison anymore. It means I'm choosing peace over revenge. But you? You need to face what you've done. Really face it. The judge nodded slowly. Mrs. Brewster, she said, her voice formal but not unkind, given the severity of these crimes, I'm sentencing you to 5 years probation, 2 years mandatory inpatient treatment for gambling addiction, and full restitution of all funds stolen from Mrs. Ellen Brewster. You'll also be subject to a permanent restraining order. Any violation, and you'll serve the 10-year suspended sentence currently hanging over your head. Clara's face crumpled, but she nodded, whispered something that might have been, "Thank you." Justice. It didn't feel like fireworks or victory. It felt quiet, necessary, sad, but it felt right. Outside the courthouse, Mark finally approached me. His face was wrecked, eyes red, hair disheveled like he'd been running his hands through it for hours. "Mom," he said hoarsely, "I didn't know." I swear to God, I didn't know. I know, sweetheart. I should have seen it. Should have protected you. His voice broke completely. You're my mother, and I... Stop. I took his face in my hands the way I used to when he was small. You loved your wife. You trusted her. That's not a crime, Mark. That's just being human. But you almost died. I didn't die. I'm here, and I'm okay. I smiled at him, this broken man who was still my little boy. We're going to be okay. He hugged me then, held on tight like he was afraid I'd disappear. I held him back, feeling his shoulders shake, feeling his tears soak into my shoulder. Ethan joined us, then Missy. A little circle of people who'd fought for truth, who'd chosen courage over comfort. We stood there in the spring sunshine, holding each other up. That was a year ago. Feels like longer. Feels like a lifetime. I gained the weight back. 43 pounds. Missy jokes that I'm going to outlive all of them now. My hair grew back too, silver and thick. I wear it short now, easier. I moved into a small apartment near the park. Nothing fancy, but it's mine. My own space. My own rules. No one bringing me tea I didn't ask for. Mark visits every Saturday. We have lunch at the diner on 5th Street. Talk about work, weather, Ethan's soccer season. We don't talk about Clara much. She's in treatment somewhere downstate. Doing the work, I hope. He's in therapy too, processing the guilt. Learning that love doesn't mean blind trust. Ethan comes by after school sometimes. Does his homework at my kitchen table just like the old days. He's 14 now, growing so fast. Getting tall like his grandfather. He wants to be a lawyer. Says he wants to help people who can't help themselves. I tell him he already does. Today is Saturday. The apple trees are blooming again, white petals like snow. Mark picks me up at 10. We drive to the park, the one with the pond and the wooden benches and the walking path that loops for miles. We sit on our bench, the same one every week, under the shade of an old oak tree. The sun is warm on my face. The air smells like cut grass and flowers. Children are playing on the swings. Their laughter carries on the breeze. "You okay, Mom?" Mark asks. I turn to him. This good man, this son of mine who's learning to forgive himself. "I'm more than okay," I tell him. "I'm alive." And I am. For the first time in years, maybe decades, I feel truly alive. Not just surviving, not just enduring, living. I learned something in that dark room, in those months of fog and fear and poison. I learned that silence is its own kind of death, that keeping peace at the cost of truth isn't peace at all. I learned that sometimes love means speaking up, means breaking rules, means refusing to be erased. I learned that you're never too old to fight for yourself. And I learned that the people who really love you, they'll fight beside you. A 13-year-old boy with a phone camera, a neighbor with security footage, a doctor who documents the truth. They'll be your witnesses when your own voice isn't enough. So here's what I want you to remember. You, sitting there listening to my story. You, wondering if your own situation is bad enough to speak up about. You staying quiet because you don't want to cause trouble. Speak. Speak even when your voice shakes. Speak even when nobody believes you at first. Speak even when it's easier to stay silent. Because your life is worth fighting for. Your dignity is worth defending. And your truth? Your truth is a weapon against every lie someone else tries to build around you. Clara thought she could erase me. Thought I was too old, too weak, too well trained in silence to fight back. She was wrong. And anyone who tries to silence you, they're wrong too. I watch Ethan running across the park now. His knee healed months ago. He moves like light itself, free, strong, brave. Mark's hand finds mine, squeezes gently. "I love you, Mom." He says simply, "I love you too." The apple tree petals drift down like blessings. The sun warms my skin. My heart beats steady and strong. I am 75 years old. I survived something that should have killed me, and I'm sitting here in the sunshine holding my son's hand, watching my grandson laugh. This is peace. Real peace. Not the false kind built on silence and fear, but the kind that comes from truth, from courage, from refusing to disappear. This is what it feels like to be truly, completely alive. And honey, it's worth every hard moment it took to get here, every single one. Sometimes the most radical act an old woman can perform is simply refusing to die quietly. This is my story, but it doesn't have to be yours. Speak up, fight back, live loud. You're worth it.